studio that we come to at least once a week to work on this project that we just finished. It's a 6-song EP called Another Sad Film. Me and Barney have had a very long relationship. I think I first met Barney when I was 11 or 12 years old, and I don't think we liked each other very much when we first met, but later on we linked up and we started making music, and we created this band called Nico's Gun that went on for a couple of years. And so it's nice to be back in the collaboration of that. So, but just getting to this record, it started off actually us coming in here to work with Rick, who is another super gifted producer engineer that we know from Philly, mainly through the Roots, because he was a producer and engineer over there. And yeah, we came in to do some music for a record for Barney that we finished. And about halfway through that project, or maybe even towards the end, I realized that I kind of wanted to start recording some stuff on my own here as well. So pretty much it's funny because Barney's project and my project are the same people. It's, you know, we had a few musicians come in for Barney's project and a few for mine as well, but it's basically me, Barney, and Rick. And I think more in just getting a vibe at the studio, we realized for this record that instead of coming in with songs that I had written at home or guitar parts that we had written at home, we would just come in the studio with completely nothing, and I would sit down here, usually at the drum set, and Barney would sit down with an acoustic guitar, maybe a piano. We'd talk about music a little bit, we'd maybe listen to some stuff that we wanted to vibe from. And that's sort of how we wrote on this record. And I think now that I've written like that, it's one of my favorite ways to write, because you're getting that instant collaboration with everybody else, and you know, some cool and interesting and special things can happen. You know, so yeah, so that was pretty much the crux of the project, and it changed a little bit over time about what I thought it might be compared to what it is now, which has been really nice, because I, in the past, have been much more of a behind the scenes producing or writing or arranging, and this is the first like official project. I had put out a little project in the past, but this is the first like official project where I really got to stretch out with other musicians, with good sounds, good drum sounds, great bass sounds and guitar sounds, cutting the tape, working with a really amazing engineer who also works in a producer's capacity, because when you're a producer, it's very easy to sort of give your opinion on it, but when you start stepping into being the artist as well as a producer, sometimes that area can get a little bit gray and you kind of can't see where you need to improve on certain things. So it's been really nice to just have like a very open and honest and creative environment to work on this project with. This record too was fun because I don't usually get to play drums on a lot of records, but I got to play drums all over this record, and it was definitely like an exciting thing to figure out parts, especially like live in the studio. Try to sort of flip parts on its head. A lot of times too, we'll start the track with the 808 drum machine just playing like little loops that I get to fill in the holes with. So it's not just all about me coming up with a really specific part. It's more like a very collaborative process where there's some electronic stuff going on just to kind of keep a meter and a pace that we're gonna go from. Basically, we would sort of jam out here without recording. So we'd sort of jam on different parts, and then I'd be like, hey, I like this little section. Maybe we could go somewhere else for this next section. And then it would be sort of Frankensteining each other's parts, and then we'd go in and we'd catch like a really good rhythm track. So it'd either be like, I mean, there's no rules here too, which was fun about this record. It wasn't like, you have to play this instrument. You know, we would jump around. Barney would play bass, Rick would play bass, Rick would play some synthesizer, I might play some vibraphones. You know, it's like this, the studio's nice because it has a lot of different instruments that you can kind of just pick up and vibe with. So I guess the closest thing that you could say is like a music producer in this sense, especially because a lot of this record we were trying to, at some point, become very cinematic. It started to sound really cinematic, like music for a film. For this specific track, it was definitely, Barney wrote the melody and gave such an immense, really awesome rhythmic vibe and melody vibe that it was really easy to write lyrics on it. And then coming in and adding Kyle's final string parts, which we definitely like gave him some direction for, and he tried a bunch of different things. It was really able to like add what we were looking for at the end of the day, you know. Really the thing that it comes down to that this record's based on is trust. We trust each other, you know what I mean? When Rick says maybe you could do that again, or maybe those lyrics aren't up to snuff, or whatever it might be, I trust him and I hear him out. You know, when I tell Barney to maybe go in this direction for the bridge, he trusts me, so we're able to work out of that place of a loving or trusting place.
It's got a swing to it too, a little bit of jazz in there. So yeah, for sure, it's a like combo of. I was trying to do the Mark Ribot kind of guitar, real twangy, kind of like angular guitar playing, and that Tom Verlaine from television kind of stuff. We just start with the original thing, and you know, I can kind of know where Harry's trying to go sometimes, so I kind of know what kind of chords he's gonna like be into, what he's gonna want to write to. So we have like real similar influences. Once we start record, literally like these songs were like written almost as we were recording, you know, and then we get a part down, record it, then pretty much we got full takes pretty much after we wrote it in. The whole thing is a full take. It's not even pieced together really. So we'll write a part and then add another thing and then add another thing. And then that's why I think we realized as we were making it that makes the best kind of records.
I had this Aleister Crowley book that this person had given me. It's actually this, what's his name? Robert Anton Wilson, writing about Aleister Crowley's. So I figured that, I don't know, I just started picking it up and started brushing through it, and it was giving me really interesting lines, or sort of just an interesting place to go into with the song, you know what I mean? Where it's like, I'm not necessarily playing a character, I'm not necessarily being myself, you're just kind of picking, but at the same time, both those are included. I'm both playing a character, and it's both 100% me in these songs, you know? There's a quote from Aleister Crowley that's, "Do without wilt should be the law of the land." And people just use that quote basically as a sign of debauchery and kind of just sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It's been for years and years sort of been used for that. But the rest of the quote is actually, "Do what thou wilt should be the law of the land, will under love." So that's sort of what this song is about. The song is actually a love song in a way, but it's a dark love song. So this song, Going On, I remember was really, really fun to write, actually. I fondly remember it because I wanted to do, sometimes I'll just come in with an idea of like, I want to do something with like a waltz, but something that for the verse was going to be, you know, very vibey, and then the hook was going to pick up into something kind of crazy. So actually thinking about it, a lot of these tracks will start with like a cymbal. To me, it's always the bass drum, the snare, and the cymbal and the hi-hat. Like, what are they doing that are gonna do something interesting? Just coming up with the different parts, the different hit parts. That's what's so nice about writing from the drums, is because you can see the whole thing. You can go, oh, I want to do ba-na-na-na, bow, you know, like coming up with those like hits, and I can come up with that simultaneously because I know where I want the feel of the drums to sound, basically. Doing the bridge on that was really fun too because it's sped up. It's like maybe 10 or 15 BPM faster than the rest of the song, and then it slows down again. And being able to cut live in the studio with the rhythm section gives you that ability to sort of sway with the music. So I remember going home and having the music to this and being like, okay, I have to write a really fucking good song to this because the music sounds really good.
Yeah, usually when you're making an album, like you like slave over every part for like way too long. By the time you're done, you hate it. But this stuff we didn't. Well, I didn't mix it, so Rick probably hates it. So. But I just had to come in and just play on it. We banged it out like real quick. We wrote it fast, so that's why I don't think it's like when I hear it, it doesn't give me anxiety. Sometimes it takes so long to write a song. When you hear it, the final product, you don't even want to listen. You're like, oh, I can't hear that anymore. You know?
So King of the Bums is a song, for lack of a better term, about 5 years ago and then some. I was a pretty hardcore heroin addict, and so that's sort of actually going through the entire record. Is sort of a lot of the tracks kind of have that inkling of like whatever it might be, a little bit of abandon. But that song specifically is about, I didn't want to write a drug song that was positive or necessarily negative, but it's about a feeling that I had when I was out there using, which is, you know, your life is fucked up, you're strung out, and you have basically nothing, but you have these days where maybe you have a little come up, and you go to this area that's not too far from here, which is like one of the biggest open air drug markets on the East Coast, if not in America. And that song was about just basically you have $20 and other people don't have $20, and you have this feeling. I mean, people use drugs not because it's you know, not because they are addicted to pain. It's a pleasurable thing. And that song is kind of about that feeling. You're watching all these people go to work and you feel like you're the king. So this song, King of the Bums, came about. We were working on something else. I can't remember what other track, but we were like overdubbing something. And this thing was pulled up, this Farfisa. So it like runs air through it, hence that sound. And I remember I started messing around with these. So these are the individual notes, but then you have chords as well. So I know I started messing around with this. And we sort of stopped whatever else we were doing to just lay that down real quick. I'm the king of the bums.
Yeah, this one has a similar kind of like sound is going on. So Harry started on this harmonium thing, and like that. And then I thought it was cool because then he just got something that I wouldn't normally do, but it just goes to minor after that major, and then. I feel like that's kind of makes the song like goes between that kind of like up vibe, you know, feels the textures of the chords are super important in these songs.
The fun thing about this track is the drums are just a little 808 loop that happens, and then I don't know how to turn the snare off, but I played everything else just with my hands because I didn't have congas, so I wanted to sort of play something that had that vibe to it. Because you can get really interesting sounds out of a snare drum and a lot more nuances than you could. So if I played it just with sticks, it would take away kind of the vibe of what that organ is doing. And then even when it gets big at the end, I'm still just playing with my hands. Which is fun. I mean, it's nice to feel your hand on a piece of metal.